As a maritime European city that looks westward towards the Americas, Lisbon embodies the transatlantic tradition. Lisbon, with relation to NATO, reminds the NATO's Lisbon Summit, which was dedicated to recognizing new security challenges, agreeing courses of action to address them, and NATO's commitment to a continued process of self-reform for a new NATO Command Structure that will be more effective, affordable, and deployable on operations. The new structure represents a significant reduction in the number of military headquarters, including the deactivation of Allied Joint Force Command Lisbon, or JFC Lisbon.
The NATO Command in Lisbon, with changing names, role, and responsibilities, has been a mirror to the transformation effort within NATO, of NATO in Portugal and of Portugal in NATO.
NATO presence in Portugal started in 1967 as Iberland within a villa in Sintra. The flags of NATO and Portugal were raised at this location in October 1971 for the first time after the construction of the permanent headquarters in Oeiras.
It has been for me a great honor to serve at this headquarters for 2 years. Whatever the name was, for the Portuguese people, it was always the NATO em Oeiras. In September 1982, Commander Iberian Atlantic was upgraded to Commander-in-Chief Iberian Atlantic, being responsible for the security of a larger area. In September 1999, the Commander-in-Chief Iberian Atlantic Command was upgraded to Commander-in-Chief South Atlantic, a NATO regional command with new terms of reference and a larger area of responsibility. South Atlantic conducts huge and complex exercises like linked seas involving more than 100 ships, submarines and aircraft from NATO member countries.
As an important step of the transformation of that time, with the deactivation of SACLAND in June 2003, command authority for Sing South Land was transferred from SACLAND to SACEUR. In March 2004, Sing South Land changed to Allied Joint Command Headquarters Lisbon.
With the transformation effort starting from 1999, Joint Force Command in Lisbon was designated to be a highly flexible and mobile headquarters, providing NATO the ability to immediately and effectively respond to crises without direct association with component commands.
Combining the responsibility of NATO response forces' agile and expeditionary nature with this headquarters work in developing the sea-based combined Joint Task Force headquarters, these tasks were crucial to the success of NATO's transformation efforts. In June 2010, Joint Command Lisbon became Joint Force Command Lisbon. With the return of France to NATO military structure, JFC Lisbon became the first operational level headquarters under a French commander, Lieutenant General Stolz, being the first soldier in charge.
Joint Command Lisbon assumed its first NATO response force standby duty in July 2005. Joint Command Lisbon commanded the air and naval operation to bring relief supplies from Europe to the United States after the Hurricane Katrina in 2005.
In the same year, JFC Lisbon was designated to form the first NATO disaster relief team after the Pakistan earthquake, for which it was rewarded by SACEUR with a campaign pennant to recognize the operational contribution helping thousands of Pakistanis. Starting from June 2005, JHQ Lisbon was assigned operational command for the support of the African Union mission in Sudan. This was the Alliance's first mission on the African continent and as such represents a landmark decision by the North Atlantic Council.
Since 2005, Joint Force Command Lisbon has been NATO's lead for engagements with the African Union. Bearing in mind that at all times we remain mindful of the African Union's desire to provide African solutions to the challenges they face. We continue to provide operational support, in particular strategic and maritime lift to the African Union's mission in Somalia, AMISOM, And at the same time, we're quite heavily involved in developing the African Union's long-term peacekeeping capabilities, in particular the African Standby Forces. And of course, as always, we stand ready to assist with any further requests for NATO assistance or training that we may receive.
In June 2009, JFC Lisbon took the leading role for ongoing NATO's contribution to the counter-piracy efforts of the Horn of Africa in order to enhance the safety of commercial maritime routes and international navigation in the area.
Piracy and armed robbery off the Horn of Africa are a significant concern to the international community, nations, non-governmental and commercial organizations, and thus to NATO. Joint Force Command Lisbon made it possible that NATO's actions were fully coordinated and integrated with the other actors like the Russians, Indians, and Chinese operating in the region, both civilian and military entities.
Responsible for Operation Ocean Shield and NATO support to the African Union, Joint Force Command Lisbon became the lead headquarters in NATO for Africa-related issues. Located in a capital city, our headquarters had ready access to ambassadors and attachés of African countries to Portugal.
Joint Force Command Lisbon has personnel from more than 22 NATO member and partner nations, contributing to Lisbon's international culture.
I joined this command 31 years ago, and since then it's been a privilege and an honor to work with this organization. When you came through those gates, you live a little with Portugal, you came to this international world. This being a multicultural, a multinational environment, I've made very good friends throughout these years.
No, I feel my experience in this command, and I find it very challenging. I find it very interesting, and also helped me to develop my skills.
The Spouses of NATO personnel was organized through the Spouses International Group in order to develop friendships through social activities, develop supportive relationships, especially during times of transition and deployment, explore Portugal, its culture and language, and provide support to local charitable organizations.
While enjoying this heavenly-like country, we're able to take advantage of being a member of this international community to plan events and activities where we're able to bring joy to NATO members and their families.
The JFC Lisbon Sports and Recreation Office continues to provide variety of services for the NATO personnel, families, and the community with the fitness center, swimming pool, tennis court, and a gym.
We run a very active sports department, taking part for things like spinning. We have tennis here, football. We organise monthly sports competitions such as swimming galas, athletics competitions, volleyball, water polo.
Other clubs here that we are running under Morale and Welfare Council. We have a golf club, sailing club, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu club. Those clubs are also open for Portuguese, and sometimes we have cooperation with Portuguese members, especially with schools.
Oeiras and Cascais communities, our neighbors and friends, were always warm with their hospitality. Bilateral visits between the commander and the mayors made this relationship stronger. Joint Force Command Lisbon personnel always share happiness and sadness of both communities by standing next to them during the good and bad times.
Joint Force Command Lisbon has been providing all relevant information about our ongoing missions and activities to media and the public. Furthermore, we practice an open door policy to universities and military institutions from all over the world. Many civilian and military visitors made use of this unique opportunity to get a fundamental insight into the crucial role of an operational level NATO headquarters.
Especially university students studying international relations enjoyed and benefited from JFC Lisbon's experience, which is mainly the outcome of the social and professional network, including IOs, NGOs, industry and countries.
The NATO headquarters in Lisbon has served as a bridge for many great leaders in perfecting the military craft. Not just in the maritime arena with Everland, but also in the many other domains that have arisen since the alliance was created. In return, these great leaders have helped developed thousands of officers, enlisted personnel, and civilians.
In addition to the references from 2005 and 2006, JFC Lisbon's performance during the last 2 years illustrates its small but flexible and agile characteristics depicted on its crest, ready to deploy, respond, and navigate through progression.
The NATO exercise schedule for 2011 included the most ambitious steadfast joist exercise so far, executing a transfer of command from Joint Force Command Naples to Joint Force Command Lisbon. Forced by real-life events, namely Operation Unified Protector, an entirely new exercise had to be designed.
JFC Lisbon took over the very challenging task of conducting this exercise with minimum support from other planned headquarters in order to enable NATO to finalize the certification of the 3 component commands and became certified once again. At the same time, this gave JFC Lisbon the opportunity to conduct an ad hoc trial of a possible future command and control structure for deployed headquarters.
As a follow-on, Joint Force Command Lisbon had to assume responsibility not only for steadfast joist, but also for the NATO Response Force 2011. And without any time to breath, Joint Force Command Lisbon conducted this year's steadfast joist 12 exercise series, testing and validating NATO's new deployability concept.
Joint Force Command Lisbon will find a place in the historical records of NATO as part of the ACO reform process. It consolidated its expertise and experience focusing on new threats and comprehensive solutions, and contributed to the development and testing of some of the elements of the new deployable forces model, which was tested during NATO's exercise Steadfast Joist 2012 with close cooperation from Joint Force Command Brunson and Joint Force Command Naples.
After the announcement that our command would be deactivated while supporting NATO transformation efforts, Joint Force Command Lisbon started a deliberate transfer of responsibilities for counter-piracy and African partnership to other commands to ensure continuity of both missions. In addition to this, Joint Force Command Lisbon has been supporting Strike for NATO to settle into the NATO base in Oeiras.
In November 2011, in a ceremony at JFC Lisbon, NATO's Maritime Command Northward assumed operational control of NATO's counter-piracy mission Operation Ocean Shield. From that day, JFC Lisbon continued to support Maritime Command Northward whenever required. Starting from June 2012, JFC Lisbon worked in close coordination with JFC Naples to hand over all of its know-how concerning the mission NATO support to African Union. After 45 years in Portugal, NATO continues to benefit from its association with a nation that continues to look over the horizon. With the transition of Strike for NATO and the NATO Communications and Information Systems School to Oeiras, this transatlantic city continues its tradition of standing with allies for peace and security.
The Joint Force Command Lisbon family is really proud of its contribution to the future of NATO.